All set?
Almost.
Okay. All the best.
Thank you.
I'm not doing it.
Huh?
Are you on extension or?
Neelam, may I start?
Yes, you may.
Hari Om. Chinmaya Mission welcomes you all to the Geeta Relay Yagna. A small announcement first. From 17th to the 25th of October, our Swami Swatmananji will be conducting Navratri Sadhana with pujas and talks on the great women of Bharat. If you wish to become a yajman for the Aarti and the puja or the prasad, please do so on the link which will be flashed here on Zoom as well as on the Telegram chat. Today we embark onto chapter 14, the Gunatraya Vibhaaga Yoga, the three moods of the mind, which will be expounded by one of our senior Sevikas, Sheela ji Chitnis. Sheela ji will start with the recitation of the invocation of the prayer. Over to you, Sheela ji.
Hari Om. सहनौर्भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दन देवकी परमानन्दम् कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयम् नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् Om. Over to you, Jyotishi.
That was so beautiful, Sheela ji. Thank you. Sheela ji has been a very close devotee of Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayanand ji since 1967, when she partook in his yagnas and camps. Thereafter, she served as the editor of the Chinmaya Sandesh, a monthly newsletter. She has also edited Pujya Gurudev's DVDs on the Gita and Upanishads. Currently, she conducts 4 study groups in South Mumbai. A very warm welcome to you, Sheela ji. Thank you.
Hari Om. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
Thank you. Yes. So, we are going to embark on chapter 14. And yesterday, in chapter 13, Sujata ji explained that the spirit enveloped in matter is an individual. This individual, that is you and me, comes to live the experiences of the world. Now, the matter in the universe is the same, 5 elements or Panchamahabhutas. And the spirit is also the same. Yet we see differences in human beings, plants, animals. Not only that, all human beings are also different. Even our own children, born of the same parents and brought up in the same environment, are so different. The differences attributed to. These differences are attributed to vasanas or tendencies. These vasanas or tendencies create desire in us. And when we move around in the world and we see objects, or when we think of an object, we have a desire and we get persecuted by that object and we ceaselessly act to fulfill that desire. So this action creates the fruit, and these fruits leave vasanas or impressions in our antakaran, which in turn creates more desires. Desires create action. Action create fruit. Again vasanas. So thus the cycle of karma or cycle of action begins, and it goes on and on and on. It has happened in the past and it will go on even in future. Every person comes in the world to exhaust tendencies, means act according to inclinations or tendencies and feel happy. For example, if I have a tendency to read, and if I get to read, I will read. In the sense, I wouldn't mind even if I have to stay awake in the night till 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning. we are actually slaves to these tendencies. We are completely helpless, and thus the immutable appears to be trapped in BMI. Not to forget that the basic cause of all this is identification with body, mind, and intellect, which limits us. We forget our real nature. These tendencies, as I said before, come from the past, but these tendencies color the mood of the mind, color our mind, and create the mood of the mind. These moods are called gunas. Gurudev says these are the attitudes with which the mind functions. And because of the attitude of the mind, our behavior is also good, bad, or indifferent. Dr. Abhay Bang and Dr. Rani Bang, or for that matter, our own Dr. Kshama Bhetre of Chinmaya Organization of Rural Development, have sacrificed their lives in the seva of the poor. Such noble, pure intentions. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have power crazy politicians or rulers who don't mind killing at the brick of the hat. So, if the vasana is for more power, more wealth, then the attitude with which the mind will function will be different. In the sense, it will be a selfish attitude. All our karmas will be for what's there for me. If the vasana or the inclination is for the seva, only the well-being of the people, love will be the mood of the mind. We act in a particular way because or under the influence of gunas, because of the nature of vasanas. Now, why are we trying to understand all this? Because somewhere within us, we know that we are running after happiness, but the happiness which we get after running so much is only transient. It is temporary. It is not permanent. And our search never ends. And as a result of this search, we get success and we have failure. And we are riding on the joys of on the waves of joys and sorrows. So I am happy, I am sad, I am elated, or I am depressed. So is this I? Who is this I? The changing personality who is sometimes happy, sometimes sad? So there is a search to find out somewhere hidden in our heart, about for the permanent happiness, to find out who I really am. The common factor, the Atman, the absolute. In Tattvabodh, Adi Shankaracharya says, Atma kaha? He has given many things, but out of that, one of them is Atma Gunatraya Titaha. Atma is beyond three gunas. So clearly, if the seeker wants to realize the self, transcend the transactional plane, and reach the absolute reality, he has to transcend the gunas. Now, what is the meaning of transcending the gunas? Transcending the gunas means not being under their influence, not being slaves to our moods, not being slaves to our likes and dislikes. That, in other words, itself is nearing the transcending of the transactional plane. To be able to transcend the gunas, we must know what they are. What are their properties? How do we recognize them? What are their symptoms? How do they influence us? How do they bind us? And how to readjust ourselves to our advantage for our goal, whether spiritual or material. And that is exactly the theme of this chapter. The name of this chapter is Gunatraya Vibhaaga Yoga, or a yoga of three gunas. Guna, when we say that she is beautiful, so we mean that the property, guna we understand as property. But here, guna does not mean property. It is not like odorlessness of water or colorlessness of water. Gunas, as I said before, indicate the attitude or the influences under which the mind functions. There are three gunas: sattva, rajas, and tamas. Sattva, generally indicated by white color, and it also signifies uh, uh, selfless activity, a person acting for the welfare of the good, noble intentions. The rajas is indicated by red color, and it indicates activity, activity for selfish interests. And tamas, the black, is dullness. And understand that they are always present in all of us and in combination. Only the proportions are different. This differing proportion gives a distinct personality, distinct color to our personality. Our children, as I said, are totally different. My son is different than my daughter. Gurudev used to say that children don't belong to you. They are only born through you. They are different because they are born with different attitudes. They are different. They are born with different vasanas. In fact, even during the day, if we observe, the proportions of gunas varies. Sometimes we are peaceful, sometimes we are agitated and excited, and sometimes we are dull. Now, why should we know the nature and behavior of these gunas? Only after knowing the nature and behavior of the gunas are we able to change them to reach my goal. I'm able to readjust myself, bring back the attitude, and apply it to the activity which is most conducive to my goal. And especially for a seeker, it is of utmost importance because he has to change his entire personality. He has to be calm. He has to be peaceful. He has to be sattvic. We have to make, as seekers, we have to make our intellect clearer, sharper. Satwaguna makes our intellect clearer and sharper and focused. This sharp intellect is a fit instrument to transcend the plane and make it fly in the unknown. We've seen all these scientific discoveries where the scientists have devoted their lives to discover things. Their mind, their intellect is so sharp and focused that they are able to fly in the unknown realms. That is the Satwaguna. Gurudev has asked us to do a homework. He has said, take a notebook, draw 3 columns, one for Sattva, one for Rajas, one for Tamas. And below each column, write the properties of that guna, the symptoms, then how they influence us, and how they bind us. Knowing this, we are able to understanding, analyzing our own behavior or our own mood, we are able to bring back our mood. For example, if I want to study and if I feel like going out and maybe watching a TV serial, as soon as I realize that, I bring back the mood and say, no, no, not now, after half an hour or after 1 hour. This is not very easy. One has to be alert and one will be able to do it with practice. In the first verse, in the opening verse, Krishna calls this jnanam Uttamam Jnanam, the supreme knowledge, having known which the sages have attained supreme perfection, Param Siddhim. Gurudev says, knowledge of this chapter assures us of a steady progress on the path. Now Krishna in verse 5 says, Gunas are Prakriti Sambhavaha, or born of Prakriti. Now if you've seen Gurudev's chart, there is Om on top, and then there are Vasanas, and below that body, mind, intellect, PFT, perceiver, feeler, thinker, and objects, emotions, and thoughts. So there is a realm of Om or absolute reality and the realm of transactional reality below Om. So this transactional reality is the realm of Prakriti. So these gunas, being born of vasanas, also are inert and belong to the Prakriti. The Lord has nothing to do with it. The main theme of this chapter is the three gunas and how they bind the spirit within the matter. Why are the words like bind used? Guna in Sanskrit means rope. This rope or guna apparently bind the spirit in us to the inert matter, body, mind, and intellect. There was a Mahatma, Udiya Baba. He was a guru of Swami Akhandanandji Maharaj. So once a devotee approached him and he said, Maharaj, please bandhan se mukti dila do. So Maharaj said, Acha, kahan hai bandhan? Dikhao. The point is that the bandhan or the binding is only notional. So how do the gunas bind? As we've heard many times, because of the ignorance of the self, we consider body, mind, and intellect as I, called ego or jivatma. This ego feels limited, incomplete, sorrowful, and our search for happiness begins. Unfortunately, our search for happiness happens in the outside world. Our real nature is Sat Chit Ananda. We are Ananda Roop. We are of the nature of happiness. We really speaking don't need to look for happiness outside, but we need to look for happiness within. But the unfortunate part is that we look for happiness in the outside world. So, and we get attached to the object, to the relationships, to the family, to the action because of which we feel happy and things like that. So if I like to swim, I'm very happy when I'm swimming. If I'm interested in sports, I'm very happy when I get to play sports. Or some are interested in partying. Some are interested in power. So they get happiness in acquiring power and they do everything. So this object of happiness and also the method by which we get the happiness is decided by the guna. Now, drugs, currently the topical thing is drugs and Bollywood. Now, my knowledge is restricted only to the media reports. For a common man, we think that these celebrities have everything what a common man or what a normal man desires. They have name and fame. They have they have immense wealth. They have their families, many of them, and yet they don't seem to be happy. They want to go high. They want to be high, and the method they adopt is drugs. And then they don't care by which method they procure them, whether the method is legal, whether the method is illegal. So this is dependent or decided by the guna. So as a result of notion of happiness created by the gunas, though in wrong place, in order to get more and more happiness, the jivatma seems to act all the time. But here we have to understand that it is only notional. I'd like to just tell you a story. There was this dhobi, and every day in the morning he used to collect clothes from the village homes in the village, load them on donkey, take to the riverfront, which was around 5 kilometers away, tie the donkey to the tree, go to the river, wash the clothes, dry the clothes, fold them, load them on the donkey, unleash the donkey, and bring back. One day, on reaching the riverfront, he realized that he has forgotten the rope. And what to do now? Can't go home. It's 5 kilometers away. So he asks a wise-looking person who is passing by. He says, "ऐसे ऐसे हुआ है, अब क्या करूं?" So he says, "What did you do every day?" So he said, "I used to bring the donkey, I used to unload the clothes, and then I used to take out the rope from my pocket or from my thaili and tie the rope to the tree." So he said, the wise man said, "Okay, do that." So this dhobi said, "But I don't have the rope." He said, "Doesn't matter, pretend." So the dhobi did what the wise man said. And then he went to the river, washed the clothes. While washing the clothes, he was looking back all the time, whether the donkey is there or he's not there. The donkey is there. After the day's work, he comes back, loads the clothes, and the donkey wouldn't move. Now what to do? So he asks that wise man again, and he says, "What were you doing?" So he said, "Well, I used to untie the rope, put that rope in the thaili, and tell the donkey to chalo." So the wise man said, "Pretend to do the same thing." So uh, the dhobi did exactly that. He pretended to untie the donkey, put the rope in his thaili, and told the donkey, "Ab chalo." And the donkey started moving. The point here is that the binding in donkey's mind was only notional, was only notional. So what does this all mean? The sum and substance of the story is we all of us are donkeys and nothing more than that. We get notionally tied to all these things. The fifth verse itself says that gunas tie, the gunas nibadhanti. They are set to tie or bind totally. Why are the gunas? Why is it said totally? Because the person really has to try hard to come out of these influences, out of their symptoms. Remember, we want to transcend the gunas. We have to transcend the relative reality. So, first we have to recognize them, become more sattvic, and then transcend the sattva also. Now, we cannot infer the guna. We cannot see the guna. We can only infer the guna from the symptoms. And we have to find out which guna is prominent at what time. Symptoms. Let us see the symptoms of these gunas as described in verse 6, 7, and 8. Let's begin with sattva. Let's understand something basically. I take 3 buckets of water and the sun is shining equally. No partiality. It is shining equally in all the 3 buckets. But the bucket in which there is clear water, the reflection of the sun is clear. The bucket in which the water is unsteady and shaky, the reflection is also shaky. The bucket in which the water is muddy or turbid, the reflection is also unclear. Now, we all know that intellect is the instrument for knowing. So, in steady, calm intellect, the reflection of consciousness is clear. In unsteady intellect, with desires, passions, the reflection is also unsteady. And when the intellect is veiled by tamas, the reflection is unclear or the knowledge is unclear. So now what are the symptoms of the first guna, the Satwaguna? Satwaguna, as I said before, indicates purity, meaning it is free from doership. It is free from desire for karma phala. It is not agitated at all. It is not anxious at all for the fruit of action. As a result, in his mind, the agitations are less, meaning rajas and tamas are less, and the person is peaceful. So when the person or when the intellect is calm and steady, we say sattva is predominant. It doesn't mean that other gunas are not there, but sattva is predominant. And the reflection of consciousness in it is clear and bright. When our mind is under the influence of sattva, we are able to concentrate, we are able to reflect, we are able to understand and meditate. It is our own experience that when we are agitated, we are not even able to read a novel. Forget about sitting and trying to understand some complex subject or meditate. So when sattva guna is predominant, we are happy and we are peaceful. Yet it binds. How? Because sattva guna creates happiness, of happiness, a feeling of peace, a greater share of subtle understanding. And a person doesn't want to come out of this feeling or a notion of happiness. It is an illusion because the source of happiness is not within, the source of happiness is outside in an activity. Let's take the example of a research worker again. These research workers are so absorbed in their work. Day and night for years together, they are absorbed. Their mind is completely focused and sharp. And if you tell them, chalo, movie ko jate hain, and they will almost hit you. Same thing is true for an artist or a musician. They're so attached to that source of happiness that they don't want to come out of it. Their happiness is not independent of the activity. And what we are seeking is independent happiness. The seeker mistakes this happiness for bliss of the self. We have to understand that sattva, it's a golden chain because it binds. That's why I'm calling it a chain. It's a golden chain, but a chain nevertheless. The seeker has to break this chain too and go beyond sattva. Now, Let's come to Rajas. A seeker trying to conquer his mind has to be very alert and see the subtle inclinations of the mind which make him dance. The mind under the influence of Rajas is unsteady. I gave the example of unsteady water because of desires, for anxiety, for fruit of action. Thus, the reflection of light of consciousness is also unsteady, is not, well, it is unsteady. The seeker or the person is not able to he may be a very intelligent man, but yet he's not able to discriminate correctly in the sense what is good for him, what will lead him to ultimate bliss, to amrutatva, permanent bliss, or shreyas. And that is what the seeker is trying to aim at. So Bhagavan says that passion is the main symptom of Rajoguna, and it expresses as urge, desires, and emotions. Endless desires. There is not a moment of peace. He is all the time restless. He's restless, he's acting to acquire an object, and then there is an attachment to the object. So he wants to hold on, hoard the object. So the attachment is for the activity to act as well as to the sangha. Attachment is on two things. So there is object as well as to hold the object. So thus the rajas binds a person with desires and attachment. So rajas compels a person to act ceaselessly, to acquire, to enjoy. Restlessly, this person is acting, and he is entangled in his joys of successes and pangs of failures. Thus, a person who is rajasic in nature is bound by his own actions. But again, you have to understand that this is also a notion of happiness in acquiring objects and getting attached to the objects because he thinks that happiness lies in that. So when your mind has a desire, understand that rajas has entered, selfish desire. Understand that rajas has entered your mind. But then rajas, this is the negative aspect, but there is a positive aspect also. Without activity, even the sattvic intentions cannot be fulfilled, like building hospitals, building schools, building dharamshalas, whatever. Whatever activity, whatever noble intentions a person has, they can be fulfilled only by putting them, by acting on them. Thus, the rajas has a positive aspect also called mangalic aspect. However, yoga, by Ishwararpit karma, the activities will not bind. Ishwararpita karma is chitta shodhakam and mukti sadhakam, as Ramana Maharshi has said. It is purifying because the mind becomes calm, there is less of rajas and tamas. You have heard about the whole thing in chapter 3 as well as chapter 4. Now let's come to tamas. Tamas, remember the example of muddy, turbid water. The reflection is also unclear. Tamas, thus, is born of ignorance because the reflection of consciousness is not at all clear. The ignorance, as though veils, covers our intellect. Therefore, the capacity to discriminate between right and wrong is lost. It is indicated, or the symptoms are pramad or heedlessness, nidra or sleep, and alasya, laziness, procrastination all the time, no interest at all in life, tendency to escape all responsibilities, zero desire to progress, incapacity to undertake any endeavor, no enthusiasm, eating, drinking, sleeping. They are the sole occupations of such a person. Intellect of this person is naturally very slow. The person is heedless to the higher purpose of life. As we all know, this human birth is durlabh. We get this human birth after many, many yonis. So this human birth is very, very rare, and we have to make use of this human birth. So as far as tamasic person is concerned, human birth is wasted. To lighten the moment, Guruji, Swami Tejomayananji, told a joke in one of his lectures. There was a person who came very late to the office, and he apologized to the boss. He says, "Boss, I'm very sorry, I overslept today." Boss looked at him. He said, "Oh, you sleep at home also? I thought you only slept in the office." So now these nidra, alasya, pramad are negative aspects of the tamas which do not evolve us, they take us down. But there is a positive side of tamas. Nidra, unless we have rest, unless we have proper sleep, we cannot function. We cannot act. We cannot even think. So that is the positive rest. Vishram is the positive aspect of tamas. So once again, the trouble is the gunas delude us by showing us the wrong place of happiness. And because the intellect is veiled or unsteady, we are not able to discriminate the actual source of happiness, and we run in the wrong direction. Can we have Gurudev's capsule 505, please? This is such an interesting capsule. Gurudev has made this so simple and so hilarious. You'll enjoy this.
Sattvam rajastama iti gunaha prakriti sambhava. These tendencies are coming to the mind from prakriti sambhava. Not Bhagavan created. Please, Bhagavan did not create. You yourself in your past actions are created. The good, bad and the indifferent tendencies in you. And these tendencies create the moods of the mind. And because of the different moods of the mind, your behavior also is good, bad or indifferent. And you come to suffer. You cannot get out of it. Just as a drunkard, having drunk so many years regularly, you have created that tendency in you, that mood in you, that by evening 6:30, you cannot think of anything else except bottle, ice, glass, soda. Really? This is the ritual of a drunkard. You cannot think of anything. Till evening 6 o'clock, you may even give discourses upon the greatness of self-control, teetotalism, etc. But at 6 o'clock, even the speaker on the platform will say, "Excuse me, gentlemen, 3 minutes," and you will go inside. Drink coffee 10 days, 11th day you want exactly at that time. Coffee, 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 coffee. This is called habits. Thus in the past your actions, noble or ignoble, have created certain tendencies or habits Under the pressure of those habits, the mind's moods are changed, and these moods bind you down. You cannot get out. The smoker cannot live without cigarette. The drunkard cannot live without drinks. Even if he knows everything. He's a doctor, he knows that. That he himself was in the hospital last 3 times with cirrhosis of the liver. And the 3rd time when he was coming out, the doctor said that next whiskey and your death is almost near. So always order the box, take the whiskey and lie down in the box so that others will have no trouble of putting you in. You see, still the fellow says, never mind, let me die happily. Without drinking, what is happiness? That man cannot think beyond. It's not that he doesn't know it. He knows the science, he's himself a doctor. And yet, he continues. He says, you go and tell him, so, Dr. Saab, why are you doing this? Suicidal. Swamiji, do you think that I don't know it? Do you know that I am a doctor? I know that it is dangerous, but I cannot live without it. Tie him down. He will somehow escape from there and try to drink. Think. In the same way, some of us are sensual. Some of us are running after money. Some of us want power. Some of us want the other man's wife. You have one, but never mind, one more. You understand? Why is it that we are going? We know it is immoral. We know it is bad. But I can't help it, Swamiji. I am like that. I must always. Pickpocketer will pickpocket his own wife. And when she is going out, he says, "Ye le jao. Take it this." No, I just, for general practice, I did it only. See, it is a nature. And when the wife has gone, there is nobody in the house. What will you do? Keep on practicing. What do you mean practicing? Pickpocket your own right pocket and then put it in the left pocket, right pocket. It's the nature.
So wasn't this great, hilarious? Yes. So we saw that all the 3 gunas are present in a person and they overpower each other. The gunas act differently at different times, depending on the prominence of the guna. For example, in the morning, we generally want to study something serious because our mind is peaceful and calm. We are in Satwaguna. As the day advances, we are whipped up with activity. And we want to do this and we want to do that and not sit and study. And as the night or as the evening comes, we are so tired with the activity that we cannot read and neither can we act. We just watch some useless serial where we don't have to use our head and sleep. So when Guna, so at that time, tamas is overpowering sattva and rajas. When we are whipped up with activity, it is rajas which is overpowering sattva and tamas. So one guna is powerful. The other 2 are also present, but they are secondary. So vasanas fall under 3 gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. And Gurudev has said that even a murderer has sattvic mood sometimes. And an advanced seeker also has moments of rajas and tamas. They are in all people as a combination. And Gurudev gives an example of coffee. Coffee has 3 ingredients: coffee, milk, and sugar. Yet the taste of the coffee will differ depending on the proportion of the ingredient. Similarly, all the people are different depending on the combination of the gunas. Their behavior pattern is decided by the gunas. So, when Satwaguna is prominent, nobility, peace, discrimination, introvertedness, mumukshatva. With Rajas, it is passion, greed, inexhaustible desires and plans, clinging attachment to action, resulting in restlessness. This person is never peaceful. And then when we are in tamasic mode, we are lazy, sleepy, we procrastinate, postpone, etc. The point is, can we change this? On day-to-day basis, yes. When we are alert and when we can think, yes, we can bring back our mood so as to reach our goal. So if we practice this day in, day out, it goes on, it becomes our habit to check the guna and bring it back to the desired guna. Like Ritika gave an example of marathon runner. And if a marathon runner at the time of training, before going for training, if he wants to just sleep, he is in tamasic mood, he will have to bring back his mood to rajasic to be able to go for training. So, day in, day out, when you practice this, you are able to overcome the prominence of gunas. But can we change the basic nature, the negative tendencies with which we are born, is the question. The answer is yes. The negative tendencies with which we are born can also be changed. It is not easy to suddenly change. We have to really, really struggle hard. We have a classic example of Valya Koli, the dacoit, becoming Valmiki Rishi. So sattvic qualities are not accidental. So then how do we change this? So changing the type of action and disciplining external movement is one way. And secondly, developing noble, positive values in us, like compassion, dan, ahimsa, truthfulness, sense control, forgiveness, etc. And over a long period of time, the gunas, new thought channels can be etched, and the gunas will change accordingly. Come to a different section altogether of this chapter as to what is our gati after the death. This question is, we are very curious to know what will be our gati in the next birth. Will we be born as human beings or would we be born as mosquitoes? This question really troubles us, or we are curious to know. So Gurudev explains it so beautifully. This is verse 15, 16, and 17 for the people who are having their books with them. So Gurudev explains this with such beautiful explanation. He says there is a continuity of thought in life. Like this week's thought is carried on in the next week's thought. This month's thought carries on in the next month's thought. This year's thought goes on in the next year's thought, and so on. So there is a continuity of thought even after the death of this body into the afterlife. Therefore, the tendencies of the mind developed in this birth are very, very important. It is essential that we do not waste this valuable human birth. So if a person dies in Satwaguna predominant, highly Satwaguna, he reaches Brahmalok. Brahmalok, the loka of the creator, the very creator. I think Dr. Abhaji explained this in her lecture. So he reaches Brahmalok, the highest realm, the realm of the creator. But don't think it's some chui moi sattva. These people who reach the Brahmaloka have done years of sadhana, not only in this life, but maybe in lives together. And as a result of sadhana undertaken, rigorous sadhana undertaken in many lives, his mind has become so pure, he has become so pure that he has not realized, but he is almost at the gate of the Brahma. We are talking about this person who is reaches Brahmaloka, and it is Kramamukti. Continuing the same thought, if a person dies under the influence of rajas, as per his tendencies and desires, he takes birth among those who are attached to extreme action, that is, human beings on this earth, so that the whole purpose is to exhaust our vasanas. So by acting, he has the acting vasana, so he is able to act, and get over his vasanas to act. And a person who dies with tamas predominant will reach the lower realms of maybe senseless, unintelligent people or animals or plant kingdom. But understand, this is not a punishment for him. He wanted it. That is because of his vasana. That is because of his desire. He finds fulfillment in that yoni. To such a person, life of a cattle or life of a pig is something he's thirsting for, to exhaust his pig vasanas. That was his choice. We may think that how sad he is a pig. This pig has to live in such muck and eat such dirt. That is what we think. But pig is enjoying. They don't think they are unhappy. Because of the gunas, that particular body was born. The type of body, mind, intellect we take or is determined by the vasanas which we wish to express. Gurudev gives a beautiful example. He says that if you want to go for swimming, you are not going to wear a party dress and jump in the water. Similarly, to play tennis, you will wear proper attire. So, to fulfill your desire of being in pig-like yoni, you have to take that body, mind, and intellect of a pig. All of us are happy to be born as human, and we are almost scared to be born as a mosquito or perhaps a cockroach in our next birth. And our goal is to evolve. And being humans, at every moment we have a choice. None of these things are accidental. These are out of our choice. At every stage, we have a choice, whether we want to climb up or we want to climb down. So, to transcend gunas, even sattva, we have to, in this birth, increase Satwaguna, to be born in human form. As only in birth, only in human birth, we can continue with our sadhana, and that too in conducive environment, so that our sadhana can go on unrestricted and happily. We saw that in chapter 6. So sattvic qualities are a result of our action. We have to develop them. Now, how can we be free of these activities? Now, coming back to basics, we have identified ourselves with body, mind, and intellect. Having identified with body, I have become perceiver. Identifying with mind, I have become feeler. I have become the thinker. I am not perceiver, feeler, thinker. I have become. So we have to, from this become perceiver, feeler, thinker personality, we have to realize our own self. Because of this become personality, the ego, PFT, the ego, the Jivatma, suffers and goes through endless births and death cycles. So once we are clear that it is the identification with the body, mind, and intellect that is the root cause, then the solution also we know. We know the problem, so we know the solution. The solution is to disassociate ourselves with body, mind, and intellect. How? This art of de-entangling ourselves is the very art of contemplation. The person who is contemplating or meditating, who can do this, is able to experience subjectively the realm of absolute, uncontaminated by transactional reality or thoughts. He has reached, he has established himself in absolute reality. He has reached, he knows he's got, or he has realized his Swarup. When I wake up in the morning, I don't have to stand in front of the mirror to know that I am a woman. Similarly, the sage who really knows who knows who he really is, and the knowledge is so complete that there is no doubt anymore, just as I don't have a doubt about my being a woman. There is a verse at this point of time I'd like to chant. This is verse number 19. Those of you who have the book can follow. Nanyam gunebhyah kartaram yada drashtanupashyati गुणेभ्यश्च param veti madbhavam sodhigacchati. When the seer beholds no agent other than the gunas and knows that which is higher than the gunas, he attains to my being. So that's what Krishna says in verse 19. So as the intellect of the meditator becomes focused and sharp, he starts seeing slowly that he's not acting, but it is the gunas of the Prakriti that are acting. In the 3rd chapter, we heard about Guna Guneshu Vartante, that the gunas act in the gunas. Iti matvana sajjate, knowing which the wise man doesn't get affected. So he who experiences that he is he who is the witness to all these happenings in the transactional world, he who experiences that he is something other than the mind, the gunas, has escaped the chain of gunas once and for all. So what does this meditator behold? As I said, the meditator beholds that the gunas are born of Prakriti, and it is the spirit that is vitalizing the Prakriti, because of which the Prakriti is acting. This meditator has come to realize that it was he himself who was vitalizing the Prakriti. It was he himself who was giving mind his light to function. He has awakened. He has crossed the plane of dream. All the joys and sorrows belong to the dreamer. On waking, the dream sorrows end. So when you, as a dreamer, know that it is your dream mind that is creating the dream world, you know it within yourself. And at the same time, you know that you are other than the dream world and the dream mind. Krishna says, you shall attain to my being, the waking consciousness. Krishna, the very life in us, is thus talking to us. In other words, Gita is addressed by life in us to the ego or PFT in us. So, who is Gunatit? Gunatit is a liberated person, a vasanaless person. He has realized his own swarup to be the very spirit. He has become desireless, vasanaless. At verse 20, this chapter actually ends. Krishna has finished telling everything. In verse 21, though, Arjuna asks 3 questions to Krishna. And that's why the chapter continues till 28, till 27. The first question is, how can we recognize the Gunatit? Second question, how does the Gunatit behave with people who are still in the transactional reality? In short, Arjuna is asking, what is the waker's relationship with the dream world? And third question, how has this person gone beyond the 3 gunas? So as I said, Krishna's answers forms the rest of the chapter up to 27. The last 2 verses, that is 26 and 27, answer the third question, namely, how has this person gone beyond the 3 gunas? And 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and 25th, Krishna answers the first 2. To explain his state of equanimity and detachment, Krishna has taken 6 pairs of opposites, in fact, 6 types of situations in verse 24 and 25. The situations are joy and sorrow, gold and mud, praise and criticism, honor and dishonor, friend and foe, dear and not so dear. So these are typically situations when you and me are either happy or sad, or elated or dejected. How does the sage respond? He understands that all these pairs of opposites belong to the dream world, and he is in the absolute reality. So really speaking, all these 6 pairs of opposites do not affect him. So as far as joys and sorrow, there was a saint called Gadge Maharaj in the last century. Gadge Baba used to preach by doing mass kirtans. I'm using the word mass kirtans because literally thousands of people used to attend his kirtans. And these people were generally from illiterate class who had lot of blind beliefs. And Gadge Maharaj, through his kirtans, tried to free them of their blind beliefs. So while one such kirtan was going on, a person walked near Gadge Maharaj on the stage and he whispered in his ears that his son has just passed away. He listened, paused for a moment, and he started the kirtan again. What an equipoise when his own son has died. This liberated person doesn't crave for anything, whether someone gives him gold or whether someone gives him nothing. He doesn't care. There was a female saint in South India called Avadayakal. She was a devotee of Shiva. The king, impressed with her, she wasn't rich, she was poor. King, impressed with her devotion, gave her 1,000 bay leaves made up of gold. She accepted them. She offered them to the Lord. And the next day, she removed them and put them in water, just as we put our nirmalya in water. So she put gold bay leaves in water. For her, the gold and the leaf were the same. Such is their equal vision. The real also test of the Gunati is how he conducts himself in the world. The word which is used in verse 23 is udasinavat asinaha. That means he is unconcerned. He knows that everything is in the transactional reality and he is not really affected with that. Swami Tapovan Maharaj, our Gurudev's guru, who lived in Uttarkashi, it is said that many people from Kerala, he belonged to Kerala, so many people from his village visited him and used to visit him. And they used to tell him all kinds of, not stories, but all kinds of information, all kinds of gossip about the people, what is happening with them, the relations, and kiska kiske saath jhagda hua, all these things. And the only reaction of Tapovan Maharaj was he would sit with his eyes closed and his response would be, hmm, hmm, hmm. So, from this godly state, from this awakened state, how can there be a deep relationship with the world? How can a realized person, how can a waker relate to dream people? This is what is udasinavat asina. He understands also one more thing. As a sadhak, all of us are careful about which guna is predominant at in our inner mind, whether it is sattva, rajas, or tamas. If it is tamas, we try to get over it. If it is rajas, also we try to get over it because we have to reach our goal. So it bothers us if there is a too much predominance of rajas or tamas. But these sages who have nowhere to reach because they have already got what they wanted, praptasya prapti, as it is called, they have nowhere to go, they have nowhere to reach. So, any guna, sattva, rajas, or tamas, playing in their mind doesn't affect them. He is able to watch them. He is able to watch the play of these gunas detachedly without getting affected. He is a witness. He never accepts, he neither accepts sattva guna happily nor rejects rajas and tamas. He has gone beyond gunas. So now he is completely detached and he's unconcerned in any of the above 6 situations. Now we come to question number 3. All these qualities are like a beacon light for a mumukshu who has to look at the sage and try to behave like the sage, try to develop those qualities in him. So then the next question, as third question, is how did this person become Gunati? So Bhagavan in verse 26, the last but one verse, says, he who serves me with unswerving devotion. When Krishna says serves me, he clearly declares that he is the Brahman. To contemplate steadily on the self so as to realize the self is not possible all 24 hours. So the practical method is do dedicated service as his worship. Krishna wants to bring our devotion out of our puja room to the field of seva. The reawakening to the consciousness of self is not far for such person who is contemplating constantly, who is dedicating his life in the service of the pure, and who tunes up for higher flights in meditation. The ultimate goal of the sadhak is to forget his separate identity and get merged with the Lord. to the extent the ego dies, to that extent the experience of divine comes to manifest in us. We saw that in the 13th chapter. Krishna, in fact, declares that he is the seed giving father and the mother is the Prakriti. In short, he is declaring that the entire manifestation is his manifestation. Just as son is a manifestation of his father. To see no difference in the Lord and his manifestation, the world is being unswerving in devotion. The vision that wave is not other than the ocean, or the ornaments are not different than the gold, is unswerving devotion. Can we see the next capsule, please? 532. Gurudev in this capsule talks about realization. So as a last, to end this talk, I would like you all to see this capsule. Yes, Varun, please.
Bhakti yogena sevate. Sa, that individual gunan samatitaidan, etan samati, all these gunas, all the three gunas, atita, you go beyond. All these three gunas you go beyond. Means what? Not that you will realize, no. You become fit to realize it. When you cross all the vasanas, you are at that door of reality. But you are not entered. Knock, and thou shalt enter. There is a pause. Jesus says, knock and thou shalt enter. If you don't knock, you can't enter. Because in order to knock, I must reach the door. And after reaching the door, I can't dash into his presence. I must knock and wait until he opens the door and receives you in the same way. In that, after vasanas have ended, in that steadiness of contemplation, you have to wait. There, the purushartha, your self-effort has ended. You can do nothing. Because in case you do something, you are again making use of the BMI. Stay there. It will happen. What will happen? Go there. Then you will understand. We can only say, it will happen. This transcendence from your limited sense of ego and a selfish state of consciousness, you glide into effortlessly into a new dimension of consciousness. Quieten the mind and lie down. And stay in that condition. Sleep can come and take you in the same way, in the steady contemplation. When the contemplation is the study, when the vasanas have ended, and you are waiting there, that state is called meditation. Meditation is a noun, is a name of that state where you steadily remain. Without, creating a new chain of thoughts of the outer world. Stay there. It will happen. Brahma bhuyaya kalpade. You become fit for entering into the world of the dream, a world of the Brahman, the state of pure consciousness.
Can I have the PPTs, please? So then, to end my talk, let us summarize. The PPT, please. Varun, the PPT, please. The knowledge of the gunas is essential for a seeker who is clear of his goal, which is self-realization. Our moods, gunas, change even during the day. Make a notebook. The previous slide. Make a notebook. Be alert and recognize prominence of the guna at a given time and take corrective action. Rajas can be purified by karma yoga. Try to be in sattva always. Trying to maintain Satwaguna is called spirituality. How to increase Satwaguna? Trying to maintain always Satwaguna is spirituality. In other words, how to be peaceful, how to be calm, how to end ego by following the path of karma, Ishwararpit karma, seva, by following the path of bhakti, which is satsang, puja, japa, kirtan, by following the path of jnana, by developing discrimination, vairagya, shat sampatti, mumukshatvam, and by swadhyaya, followed by shravan, manan, and nididhyasan. Next one, please. Practice goodness, non-injury, truthfulness, compassion, forgiveness, straightforwardness. Do your duties. Offer your karmas to the Lord. Don't lose sight of your goal. Introspect. Be alert. Do your upasana. Hold on to the Lord. Meditate. The ultimate goal of the sadhak is to forget his separate identity and get merged with the Lord. Hari Om. Om Tat Sat. So if there are any questions, please ask. Hari Om, any questions?
Sheela ji, I don't think there are any questions.
Yes.
Okay.
Good. So thank you very much. Hari Om.
We have a question,
Hari
Sheela
Om.
ji. Sheela ji, we have a
Okay.
question.
Yes.
Sheela ji, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much, Hari Om, for that beautiful lesson. It was beautiful. There are just some words which I did not understand. You said Shat Sampati, Mumukshvatvam, and then Shravan, Manan, and Nidhyasayan. Can you please help me understand what these mean?
You join a study group. I'm pretty clear. But anyway, because listening to lectures is one thing and studying is different. So I strongly recommend that you do join study group. Now this Shat Sampati, I'll try and be brief about it. There are two types of sadhanas. One is an external sadhana and the other is an internal sadhana, also called as Bahiranga Sadhana and Antaranga Sadhana. Now, Bahiranga Sadhana has Vivek, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti, and Mumukshatvam. And Antaranga Sadhana consists of Shravan, Manan, and Nididhyasa. Now, Shat Sampatti, which forms a part of Bahiranga Sadhana, it is called Sampatti. Sampatti is wealth. So, this is sixfold wealth which we have to develop in ourselves. So this sixfold wealth, I'll just quote the names, are Shama, Dama, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha, and Samadhan. So all these 6 types of wealth, we have to acquire and preserve them. to help us to go further. So once you are sort of ready, your mind has quietened, and you're simultaneously doing Shravan and reflection. That is, Shravan is data. You are listening to something, you are reading something. So you are collecting data. And while you are collecting data or while you are in study group discussing, there are questions, there are doubts. So you try to answer the doubts. If you have doubts, you go back, you read further, or you go back to your Sevika, you ask the questions, you discuss, you reflect yourself. So this is the process of Shravan and Manan. And then the last stage of Nididhyasan is contemplation. So contemplation is a stage which follows after your all the doubts are eliminated, and there is only I won't go too much into detail. I hope it is clear. Am I clear? Was your question answered? Hari Om.
Thank you, Sheela ji. I think you have expounded such a potent chapter so beautifully. Thank you so much.
Thank
We are
you.
so grateful to you for this. Thank you. On behalf of Chinmaya Mission and Swami Swatmananji, I would like to thank today's Yajman, who does not wish to be named. May Gurudev's blessings be ever on you and your family. And now to thank you all for taking time to taste the nectar of our great scriptures. Thank you. Stay back for the Aarti, please. Hari Om.
ॐ जय भगवद् गीते मैया जय भगवद् गीते हरिया कमल विहारिणि सुंदर सुपुनीते ॐ जय भगवद् गीते कर्म सुमर्म प्रकाशिनि कामासक्ति हरा ज्ञान विकाशिनी विद्या ब्रह्म परा ॐ जय भगवद् गीते निश्चल भक्ति विधायिनी निर्मल मलहारिणी शरण रहस्य प्रदायिनी सब विधि सुखकारी ॐ जय भगवद् गीते रागद्वेष विदारिणि कारिणि मोद सदा भवभयहारिणि तारिणि परमानन्द प्रदा ॐ जय भगवद् गीते आसुर
पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम